Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning into this docu-series on organizing. My name is Anthony Diaz. I'm co-founder of the Newark Water Coalition, and we have this esteemed panel with us today. I'll allow them to introduce themselves, starting with my left.
My name is Ayesha. I'm an organizer with Central Jersey DSA, and I also organize with COSECHA, the Abolish ICE Coalition, New Labor, and some other groups.
Marcellis, founder of Apiary in the Sky and member of the Newark Water Coalition. Pretty much a Norton native and just, here to help.
Walter, a friend of the people. I organize or agitate with various groups and anyone willing to think forward.
So we're going to jump right in it, and I want to ask, what is your definition of an organizer? And we're going to start with Walt and work our way back.
Thanks. So I think my definition of organizing has definitely changed as I've grown older and matured. Initially, when introduced to this type of work, I used to immediately think of mostly either a male cashing nonprofit checks that would do random campaigns or focus around political work to get certain laws or bills passed. And I think that my path has shown me that anyone really is an organizer if they're willing to put in work or to take action to make their surroundings better.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with Walt. In my travels, I kind of learned that I used to look at the organizer think it was something special about this organizer in a campaign or in a movement. But like you said, I think that anybody has the potential to be an organizer, and in my experience as an organizer, it's really been just keeping the energy up. Just, reminding everybody to show up, or kind of reminding everybody that we have a meeting today or stuff like that. It's really just that person who just kind of keeps tabs on stuff, and it just stays committed to the vision and kind of just helps take everybody to that place.
I definitely agree with everything that they both just said, and I would say an organizer is someone who wants to push people forward, and that should always be a continuous loop. Like, you're learning from them, they're learning from you, and you never should think that you're going into this and you know what the right answer is, you know what the right move is, you know what all of the steps are towards the goal. You're learning from each other and just trying to always push people to take action together with you.
I agree with what everybody said. I think, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this panel together, and this is something I said before we started shooting, is that a lot of people have joined the movement, especially after George Floyd. And I've seen some good things, and I've seen some god-awful things about people who take up this mantle of organizing. And I think it's, part of the reason why I wanted to share this space with all you folks is that we need to show people that organizing looks, feels, and, just different from different places, and it comes from with different experiences and things like that. One of the things that I'm curious about is, could you describe to me, why you organized or why you got into organizing or any project that you got into? And I want to start with you, Ayesha.
Yeah, for me, it was, I guess, Donald Trump getting elected. It's sad. Sometimes I think about it, and it does feel like it took something like that for me to want to organize with people. But, when he announced he was becoming president, or he wanted to run for president, he said that he was going after immigrants. He said that. And so I started looking around and seeing who was working on immigration. And that's when I even learned what the difference was between activism and organizing.
So for me, my journey organizing really started just because, growing up in Newark and many times feeling helpless in a lot of the problems I was seeing in my friends, family, neighbors, and stuff like that. And you kind of grow with these negative feelings. A lot of people just be like, fuck Newark, I don't want to be here, you know what I'm saying? And they get their education or they get their money and they leave. And then they forget about it, you know what I'm saying? Or it becomes a part of their story where it's like, oh man, I fought my way out of there. But for me, it was always if I had such a hard time being here, I could imagine all the other people who are having a difficult time, and have less support. So for me, it was always earlier in my journey, I would just volunteer, or I would just, try and fill in different places. And then after a while, I just got tired of, seeing these nonprofits that are real disjointed and, going into certain, groups or campaigns, and just seeing that I've always really wanted to help people. I've always wanted to make sure that people get the things they need. For me, it's it doesn't have to be this long, drawn out battle or fight. It's like we could all just get what we need if we all work together and help each other. So for me, I just wasn't seeing enough of what I wanted out there. So I just jumped into the fight. Aunt always says, you can't be like a bystander with stuff. So, or you can't be like you can't just keep talking about stuff or even critiquing the people who are doing stuff. You got to go out and do it yourself. And it took me a while to get the confidence up to do that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, thanks. I think for me, like similarly, organizing was definitely born out of a feeling of love for my surroundings. I'm the oldest out of a big crew of kids that, my aunts and my mom has birthed. So we always had to look out for each other. And I think as the oldest, it was, this big responsibility for me. And I think that sort of definitely transitioned later on in life. I feel like I never knew I really was an organizer, but in high school, I felt like also out of the love out of my friends and the people that were here. I think one of the very first actions I ever took was organizing a walkout at school because I wanted to protest, unfair immigration laws, and I did it on a May Day to just emphasize worker rights. So it's definitely grown out of a lot of love for people in my surrounding and my neighborhood, my city.
So I'm glad to hear the different perspectives of your journeys, and I definitely didn't know that about you, or I probably should have known that about you, but I definitely respect you a lot as an organizer, and it's good to see that you're newer in the movement. Walt's been doing it since high school. Marcellis a little bit newer as well. I've been since high school. So in the amount of time that you organize, can you describe to me your best moment, a moment where you were like, wow, another world is possible, where you really, really felt that in your journey? I don't know if you need to think about it or you got it. You're jump in.
Yeah, I'm ready. So for me, growing up, what was most difficult was probably the abandoned homes and vacant lots. So especially now, this is something I'm thinking in terms of like incorporating into my organizer, is making sure like younger people have access to like certain opportunities, because I was too young to get in on property or to get in on this. And then now we're in a situation where the gentrification is like in full swing. So it's like there's some children or young people who will never have had a chance to maybe purchase property or get access to land in Newark. So for me, some of the best like organizing moments was like kind of getting into like that land grab and really seeing that there's hope. Like if there's enough people working together and really trying to make sure that Black people get access to capital and land, like this is probably like the best time in history for us to be able to do that. So I definitely feel like this is one of those like best moments for me.
I think my best moment organizing is definitely correlated with my worst moment organizing in a way, but it came during a time where I was transitioning out of my adolescence into my early adulthood, and I got together with friends. Like I knew Anthony from high school, like I knew of him. I had our other friend Victor, and just other community members that rallied around housing. And that sort of spawned a big movement that would then become a political slate to say. We ran a slate under the name of a movement for the people, a movement of the people. Good old AMP days. And I think that it was, for me, it was the best simply because I was able to realize that, at least in Newark, if you agitate enough, if you have enough time, courage, and determination to just say something, to really put yourself out there and get word out that these politicians or the people in charge are pretty frail and they are easily moved if you simply just talk, if you just simply mobilize, if you organize. And I think that I didn't, before then in my adolescence, I never really saw too much of that reaction from either political agitation or from organizing. But I think that learning a little bit more of strategies available and seeing those results was probably some of the best. I mean, it keeps getting better, but that was sort of like the introduction to, a better world is possible for me.
I would say probably some of the immigration actions that we've done. You know, we've been working in all different ways. There's so many groups working on this, obviously, and have been for decades. But in the last few years, we've been fighting to end the detention centers in New Jersey specifically. And, you know, there were advocates working on that, and that's great, and they work really, really hard, and they do really good work. But seeing the direct actions with families of people who were detained and put in cages, and then that translating to the 3 detention centers that were contracts with county jails ending last year, but there's still 1 private detention center, and so the fight continues. But it's really been great to see that we won't build any more in New Jersey.
Dope. So you folks told me about your best moments. I want to hear about your worst moments, and I'll tell you about my worst moment in organizing was our mutual aid march, which a lot of people talk about it being one of the worst moments in Newark Water Coalition history. A lot of people were like, this is it for the Water Coalition, you failed, and da-da-da-da. What was so interesting, and for folks that don't know, we led a George Floyd march June 12th of, I think it was 2021, and it was from University High School to the new police precinct right down the street, actually. And so what I wanted to do was really represent the school to prison pipeline in an actual form, but I was tired of everybody protesting, so I wanted to do it in mutual aid fashion, which was we had lettuce, we had diapers, we had fresh produce, and we were giving it out as we were marching down the street. The city administration comes and literally starts harassing and beating up our protesters. So we're literally fighting the state. And it's this moment of like, I'm like, y'all beating up white people with lettuce and diapers in their hands. And what is this about? It's not even about, whether we're trying to seize power or control. We're literally just trying to help our community. And that's why, for me, it was at that point where I realized, well, if I'm taking up this mantle of organizing, then I need to be serious about it, because look at the consequences out here. And I think for a lot of people, they hear about how repressive the state is. They hear about these pushbacks that happen. But when you're faced to that, when you feel that, when you're literally confronted with that evil, you have to make a decision. Are you with the shit or are you not? And so, I don't blame people that are in the fight and they have to take a mental health break, or who are in the fight and they're like, you know what, I got to step away for a moment. But if you're in this movement, if you're in this space and you're taking up that title of organizing, it's something serious. And we all have these moments. We all have these battles that we go through. So, and that's my very physical one. And there's also mental health components that I talked to you folks about before in organizing, where you're just like burnt out, you're frustrated, but you're like, damn, the work never stops. Damn, the work, the struggle continues. Damn, I need to find money. I need to feed this family. I need to get water out to these people. So I would like to hear some of y'all worst moments. And you could be as, transparent as you want to be. You don't got to share all the details of anything, but I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts on this.
I've definitely had times when I've been scared or uncomfortable or scared for others, similar to what you experienced. But I think the worst moments are when we've had internal conflict and not one person is right, not one person is wrong, and you just have to learn conflict mediation. And so that's definitely one piece of advice I would give a young organizer, especially if they're starting a new project or a new group, or an older organizer who's doing that, is to think about conflict before it happens. So whether that's learning about restorative justice, building those practices into your organizing, or just learning how to de-escalate situations, all of those things that you might not think of when you're starting out and thinking about issue campaigns or just organizing with others, those things always come up.
That's a good point, because that's something that happens a lot. And what I tell people is the more intention you build in the foundation, it's easier to get through those internal conflicts. But sometimes we're so there's a fire that needs to be put out, and we don't focus on the foundation, and then it hurts us in the end. So I'm very, very happy that you brought that up.
So my worst moment, it was a little bit less physical, but definitely more like to the mental side that you said. So like working with the farmers in Newark, it's interesting with organizing. You learn a lot about people because you kind of learn like the trends. So you know like if you do an event late, people may not come. You know, people like food at events. You know what I'm saying? So you feel like you start to get to know people, but then there's always this part where people are unpredictable. So like one of the farmers got their space taken, and I had been helping this woman, get her space ready, and we were all excited at the beginning of the season and stuff like that. And the city just came in and they were just on some real bully, like, like they violated the lease that she had, so they're breaking laws, and then they took away, confiscated a bunch of her materials, almost like she did something wrong, and they were the ones who were violating. So it kind of like, it super triggered me because I was like, yo, like this is at the beginning of the season, we're trying to make food for people, and they have they complete disregard. So it was really difficult for me going through that. But what was most difficult was seeing how everybody in our organizing group responded. So I'm thinking like, yo, this is our moment. We about to light them up. We caught them red-handed, you know what I'm saying? So let's go get them, you know what I'm saying? And everybody was just so afraid and so like, and when you talk about being lonely in leadership, you know what I'm saying? Like it's weird. People will push you up to be the one to say something, or people will, like they want you to be the one to, say how everybody's feeling. But then when the consequences start coming, then everybody wants to like everybody's quiet. I didn't say it. So I kind of had that where it's like I'm like causing all this commotion and stirring stuff up and really starting to feel worried. I'm like I'm just moving into a different space in that organizing world, and then I just had no support. It was like everybody was just gone, and I was even getting backlash from people who I thought were supposed to be my friends or be my coworkers or colleagues. People just trying to dissociate from you or trying to just a lot of weird energy. So that was hard for me. Was feel like that loneliness, but it also kind of inspired me to be like it's like you got to get it no matter what. No matter who you got by you, you got to keep going. And sometimes that means even you might have to pivot or shift in your organizing. Maybe this is not what people need, and even coming to grip with that and realizing that like having to center, ground yourself, and keep going.
So I think like my worst moment in organizing is definitely tied to a lot of growth. I think definitely during that AMP time where I grew out of sort of the illusion of let's say electoral politics in general, or basically being on the inside view of how a partisan sort of city like Newark has held in, let's say, a relatively really long period of time, has held in control this big prize, Newark, and the political weight that it holds. It was a bit disheartening to sort of see that, but I think that this was sort of a coming of age for a lot of people, especially the great majority of Democrats or progressives who supported people like Bernie Sanders, and they really felt like this was a change in tide where maybe if you support this fellow who has progressive views, who has a socialist democratic politics, who says all the right things, that hey, maybe we can get him elected and maybe he can do the things that he says he's going to do, only to see him sort of be backdoored out of even running, out of his candidacy. He didn't even get a shot. So I think that a lot of people grew up into the political reality of what eventually would become things like Donald Trump. So it's lonely. I mean, at times in the view of things and in retrospective, to see how much I sacrificed to really learn a really hard lesson. But it's definitely, I would say, sort of a big transition, a moment of growth. Maybe one of the worst times in organizing for me, though.
So I definitely want to piggyback off of that, because one of the things that I tell people in the Newark Border Coalition all the time is I'm like, the game changes every day. And, what we're doing today might have to change tomorrow. It might have to change the day after that. And it's tough because, oftentimes it's like, well, this is the plan. We got to stick to the plan. We got to do this. This is the theory. This is the one way to win. And one of the things that I believe is that there are multiple ways to win. If we knew the right way to win, why are we not winning? That's really what it comes down to. So could you describe to me a moment in your organizing where you're like, I fucked up. We got to change course, and let's change course. If you feel comfortable with sharing.
Where do I it's kind of tied to my worst experience in organizing, which was like, I guess I've become hypersensitive to certain things. So then I'll create another problem for that. So I try and create safe spaces for the people I work with where I'm always there to support them, or, don't tell me something difficult you're going through because I'm trying to help, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of had, was providing that for all, a lot of the farmers and gardeners. But the more I learned, trying to be everything to everybody, I learned that, self-preservation is so important. And it's not about being selfish or putting yourself first, but it's you can't do anything for anyone else until you've done for yourself. So now it kind of helped me kind of recognize, and in terms of how I fucked up, I just ended up I lowered the quality of my work basically by spreading myself too thin. So, maybe I might be late all the time here, or, I might have an event and it's just, we're real last minute and I didn't get as much of attendance as I wanted. And I recognized that it was my overall quality work suffered because I was pushing myself too much.
I've experienced that before, and one of the things I think that really made me learn that lesson was watching someone else do it who sort of got resentful at other people because their expectations for themselves were so high, too high, and then their expectations for others were too high. So I watched them get resentful and then angry at other people, and I realized that was happening to me. So I definitely try not to overextend myself because I know that I'm not going to do as good a job as I want to with the things that are really, really important. And you have to, like I said before, when I was trying to think of a good definition of organizing, it shouldn't be about one person, because then you're not organizing. And it's not that there's anything wrong with advocacy or for service work, but that's not what I'm trying to do, and I don't think that's what you guys are trying to do. We're trying to push other people and learn from each other and move each other forward. So if we take on too much ourselves, then we're not going to be able to keep moving forward for as long as we want. We want to do this for our lifetimes, right? The work's not going to end.
Maybe a lifetime.
I think that definitely one of the moments where I knew I messed up in my path with organizing was, I guess it starts back with my being exposed to theory as a young teenager. I spent summers away at debate camp, where I was learning this stuff, and I would spend a month or so, even more sometimes, just at a university learning anything and everything regarding theory. So from the basics to postmodernism, the whole gambit. And I got too enveloped really in just the sort of the very hardcore, hard-nosed approach of this is the way things are done, and I sort of started also negating who I was, because unfortunately a lot of this theory, it negates your cultural aspects, it negates a lot of your heritage, it negates your beliefs. It took me a while to realize that a lot of the problems that we're looking to solve, a lot of the things that we're looking to see happen in our neighborhoods, in our communities, mutual aid, farming, just very simple, basic things that's just who I am. That's who my grandparents were. That's who their grandparents were. That's in my DNA. That's just, it comes natural to us. I don't need to go to college. I don't need to go to some university as a kid or learn all this theory just to do that. And I found myself that I was just expecting too much maybe, or isolating myself a bit because maybe someone else didn't know as much theory, or someone else didn't, carry things out in a certain way. And, I still hold really dear to my heart the little red book, the little red Chairman Mao book that my mentor brought me back from China when I was 14. But at the same time, I also learn to appreciate, my grandparents, learn to appreciate my heritage and their lore, their culture. And I think that that's more what I focus on now.
That's great, because a lot of people always ask me this. They're like, what's your one moment? Like, what's your burning bush moment that, you parted the sea and brought you into organizing? And I think it's this evolution over time. One of the things that I say often is, like, if you're born black and brown, at some moment in your childhood, that switch goes from childhood to warrior real fast. And it's never turned off. We are always fighting. We are always in the struggle. We're always in the movement. And you kind of forget who you are because of that. But knowing that our people have always practiced, community or mutual aid, really. When people ask me what mutual aid is, I'm like, oh, that's like when you go to your neighbor and you ask them for a cup of sugar. And then they turn around and they give you a cup of rice or something like that. It's very simple things that we've always had. It's always been within us. But, it's labeled differently and for different reasons. And we understand that. So let's wrap it up. I got 2 questions, two for one in here. The first one is, if you had something to say to any young organizer, what would it be? And then the second part is, what is your hope? Like, what is your hope for the future? So, what do you want to say to young organizers, and what's your hope for the future?
Okay, so what would I say to a young organizer? So number one, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better position you are to help people. Information, now we live in a world where there's so much at your disposal, but there's also a lot of BS. So I mean, like, as an organizer, you're really just trying to help people, find the truth in different places, So definitely have the information. Like, for me, just knowing stuff, sometimes you take certain things for granted, but just having that information is key. And my hope, honestly, is really just for the kids, because I mean, I really, my heart just goes out to them, and that's why I'll never really give up organizing, just because they don't really have a say-so in what happens and how they're affected by some of these things, like the environmental stuff or some of this other stuff. So it's always, everything that we do is about, hoping that, we could make a better world for our young people.
What I would say to younger organizers or older organizers who are new to this is, who are the people who care about the things you care about, and talk to them. Don't think you have all the answers. Just talk about the things you care about. Then that's step one. And then start talking about, like, what are your ideas to push back? Who else do you know? Who can we get out here? Like, you're never going to have one answer. Sometimes the answer is something like a rally or a march or a walkout. Sometimes it's, we need more information. Who can we reach out to? Sometimes it's, let's just do something fun, and that might look like mutual aid. But, there's no one path. We don't have all the answers, like you said before. If we did, we would have won already. So yeah, that's basically what I would say.
What about the hope?
So for hope, I am getting a lot of hope from my sister. My youngest sister is organizing her workplace. She and her coworkers have been amazing at pushing back at the union busting. So when you see other people, when you read, like, stories, go on Instagram or Twitter or wherever and look at, like, what other people are doing, and that is going to give you hope, and, like, that'll trigger some things in your own head, like ideas of things that you can work on. Just seeing other people organize with other people is what gives me hope.
I like that too. I definitely resonate with that. When I see, like, my young fellas or ladies jump up and they're just doing something in the movement, I'm like, yeah, look at them. What about you, Will?
I think that I would have definitely wanted to speak to, like, my younger self. I guess if we're going to talk to any organizer, even, I just, always critique myself to begin with before I think about, what I could say to anybody else. I think to a young me, I would have definitely, I think I was already had the itch for, like, knowledge and stuff, but I think that I would have focused, I would have told myself, talk to grandpa, talk to grandma. Knowledge itself, I think, has been the most influential knowledge I could have ever had. I think knowing who I am was the day that I decided that, I'm not, some academic. I'm not some, Pink Floyd, another brick on the wall or something. I'm me, and I have a past, and I have a culture, and I have a heritage, and I have beliefs, and I have power. And I think that I think it's that moment sort of that, you know, and it's not really just one moment, but it's just the progressive acquiring and seeking of this knowledge, of talking to my grandma, talking to my grandpa, you know, figuring out who they were. What did you do? You know, how'd you go about things? And that sort of also ties into my hope. I hope that there's you know, for as bad as things are right now, I hope that that's what it turns to. I hope that we all look inwards. I hope that we all look back to see that, you know, we're not standing here to, you know, find identity. We are who we are, and there's power in that. There's infinite power in that, and I feel like this is sort of what it's all shaping up to. So my hope is to see that play out. I hope to see what I think is destiny to come to fruition. I hope to one day see, you know, all of us, you know, together, all, you know, all walks, all cultures that are here, just do what they came here to do, you know, because I do believe that this is, you know, this is predetermined, and I feel like this is going somewhere, and that's my hope, is to see that happen. Or even if I don't see it happen, I hope it happens, even without me.
Hey, that's beautiful, bro, for real.
Thanks.
So thank you all for this. This was actually a good panel. I like this. I like the conversations. I like what everybody brought up. So if there's any organizations you want to plug in, this would be the time. Any social media contacts that you want to share. So feel free to share it at this moment.
Hey, Mom.
I'm in DSA, like I said before, so I always encourage people to check it out wherever they are. But I'm also working with groups like New York Water Coalition on a mutual aid conference that hopefully will lead to a solidarity network here in Jersey. So yeah, we want to just meet people with this conference and see what happens.
Shout out to Three Sister Muncie's Medicinal Farm. You know, definitely some of the best experiences I have right now. I think it's at Three Sisters Muncie.
I think it's Muncie Three Sisters.
Oh, you're right. It's Muncie Three Sisters. My apologies, but definitely shout out Chief Man, shout out Mikey, shout out the whole family. You know, you're on our channel, so you already know it's Newark Water Coalition affair here. And shout out a Los Pollos de Fabri in Guayaquil, Ecuador, and, you know, shout out La PPG, and, you know, shout out to the people worldwide.
The culture.
Any shout outs? See, I don't like shout outs because everybody get upset. They're like, damn, you ain't shout me out. So that's why I don't like shout outs. But it's been 3 companies in my head that I'm working with this season outside of the Newark Water Coalition, and that is Plantivia. They're a hemp and CBD company, and they're really about destigmatizing weed and cannabis, and really also making sure that minorities have, like, you know, first in line for a lot of the opportunities that are, you know, unveiling across, you know, New Jersey and a lot of these legal states. And then second is Astro Sense, and that's a young lady who has her own candle making company. And I'm just proud of entrepreneurs, people who, you know, break out of the mold and try something different. And, you know, and whenever somebody gets success in that, you always want to support them and encourage them. So I'm going to use my brand to help promote her. And then the final one is another one of my friends named Black the Brand. So I'm also intentional about trying to support, you know, women-owned businesses, because, you know, being a black-owned business, I know how difficult it's been for me. So we got to use every opportunity to highlight women-owned businesses as well.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found this informational. Find us at NewarkWaterCoalition.com. Our email address is NewarkWaterCoalition@gmail.com. Our Instagram is cleanwater, 4 Newark. And then we're also on Facebook, Newark Water Coalition. Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Anthony Diaz, co-founder of the Newark Water Coalition. I hope you enjoyed these videos. I hope you got something out of it. The main point of all of this is that get involved in your communities. We have struggled so much and have come very, very, I don't even want to say far. We haven't come that far at all, because we're still dealing with the same bullshit in our communities. We're still dealing with the same struggles. Systemic poverty is still an issue. Capitalism is still an issue. Hopefully you got some ways that you can navigate around this. Hopefully you got some ideas of how you can organize around this. I hope that we've filled your cup by watching these videos. I hope that you got something out of it, because at the end of the day, it's not about what your theology is. It's not about what your praxis is. It's just about doing the work. Just do the work. And that's what all of this is about. If we really want to see change, then this is what it's going to take. So thank you.